Here, and for this session, we are going to be reviewing a basic guide to busting Bastion bunkers. We'll be taking a look at this. I am a former top contenders coach. We're going to look at this and see, hey, what did they say? Are they right? Are they wrong? We'll go ahead and give it the review, and then we'll bounce it over to chat to see how you guys are doing and what you guys think, or if you have additional questions for me. So, the best way to counter a hero is to play that hero. That's not really the best way to counter the hero. That's one of the better ways. That's an acceptable way to learn how to counter a hero. That's not the best way to counter the hero. You want to play the hero to learn their weaknesses. When you try what they did, someone is going to stop you, or you'll have found an SR printer. And guess what? You won't have found an SR printer. So you'll either have learned how to play the hero correctly, or you'll discover, oh, someone else shut it down by doing this. This is potentially something that I can do. So that's not the best way to counter it. It's not a case where the game is so terribly balanced that the only way to ever beat someone is to run the exact same strategy because we found the best, most dominant by a wide margin strategy. That's not really the case. But let's see where they go. By playing that hero, you will quickly learn the hero's strengths and weaknesses. That's, again, the best way to learn to counter it. That's not the best way to counter it. Let's start with Bastion's weaknesses. Let's start with Bastion's weaknesses, which should become very evident when you play him. First weakness, limited range, okay? Bastion has drop-off damage. Projectile heroes, in particular, Hanzo, Torb, Zen, do not. Also, Sentry Bastion is easy for projectile heroes to hit. Yes, an old-school standard way to take down Bastion bunkers, or even to take down Orisa bunkers back when Orisa had that tougher shield and could really just hunker down in a spot better, was to pull out the old, okay, let's run Pharmacy plus Hanzo. And you can just shred him. You don't have to be, terribly accurate. You can just go as long as you play at maximum range where their hit scan don't really do meaningful damage to you. You can go, hey, we can mostly heal through this. Now, it depends on do the sightlines allow for it, but that still absolutely works against Bastion. He does struggle when people can play outside of his range, and in this, we see Hanzo, Torb, Zen. They all have that. Farah has that as well. Echo has that, though she's less good at it now that she has less shots per clip. Yeah, that's absolutely going to work, but this is going to be dependent on how long are the sight lines. If you're in a situation where you can't get long enough sight lines on their bunker, that might not work for you. Bastion really, when he is set up in his bunker, wants a medium, maybe slightly medium long sight line. He doesn't want a super long sight line. He runs into problems with that, and he doesn't want a short sight line where people can just jump on top of him either and he doesn't have time to do work. He is a medium range hit scan primarily. Cannot one tap. Bastion cannot one tap. Enemies can peek, take advantage, and dash back to cover. This is a crucial weakness and key to defeating Bastion. So he doesn't one-tap you in the sense of one bullet doesn't take you down the way one Widow bullet can take you down, the way one Hanzo headshot can take you down, the way, I suppose, a Doomfist punch into a wall can take most heroes down. But, we look at this and go, he can't one-tap you, it's true, but you have to be so tight on your cover that he can't do any follow-up damage. He doesn't have a slow rate of fire. It's not like Hanzo, where if Hanzo misses the one-tap, okay, there's a little bit of a wind-up, unless he has Storm Arrow, before that next shot comes out. Or like Roadhog, where there's a decent amount of delay between each shot there. No, again, unless Hook comes out, that sort of thing. So, yeah, you can't one-tap, but that does mean that you still have to be very tight on your cover. And, again, it's not a one-tap, but the rate of fire is very good. Okay. Can peek enemies, take damage, and dash back to cover. Sure, if you're trying to charge a nano to overwhelm him or something, but that's probably not your solution. But it can be useful for, hey, we're peeking him, that Hanzo that's peeking him to repeatedly peek, throw damage, peek, throw damage, peek, throw damage, that sort of thing. That said, your preference would be to play at a further range. Shields are fragile and can usually be broken while avoiding Bastion's sightline. Right. If you can find a way where, let's say, there's a Bastion in a bunker. Yeah, Bastion, he's in his bunker there. And there's a shield like this. Cool. And you can discover, oh, and there's physical walls that go like this. And you can find a way to shoot at this portion. Let me highlight that. This portion that's tucked behind a wall of the shield without Bastion being able to shoot at you. That has some value. It does have some value to go, hey, hurting this part of the shield right over here, This part right here damages the whole shield. The shield breaks when any part of it has taken enough damage, and the Bastion can't shoot you if you're, say, shooting it from over here. That said, yes, the shield has a meaningful cooldown if we're talking Orisa. Yes, Reinhardt will then have to hide, and then your other teammates can potentially take out the Bastion. This isn't like the most important aspect, but it's relevant. It's worth bringing up. I don't object. Okay. Shields are large and can usually be damaged while avoiding Bastion's line of fire. Usually might be a little strong, but frequently, sure. Breaking shields while not being shot by Bastion is very important. Mm, while not being shot by Bastion, sure. While Bastion can't shoot you, less important. You don't. It's not that important. Like it's not. It's more than a cute tech that you'll only execute 3% of the time or something like that. But it's not something that you're gonna do 40 or 50% of the time either. Go, let me shoot the shield from a place where he physically can't have a sight line on me. It's not that important. Like, you'll take advantage of it when it's there, but the problem is you don't want to have to rotate from that spot where you were breaking the shield that he couldn't see you to some new spot to be able to actually take down the Bastions. Like, you have to have allies set up in a place where they will be able to shoot, and now we're getting into teamwork things. It's really not that important. It's worth mentioning in the guide, surely, but it's really not that important. You can jiggle peek the Bastion just fine to take him down. We have a super chat coming in from Adam in Charge saying Temporal's hairline is a peninsula. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. I'm glad that I can help us all with geography. Does that help? Still peninsula? Yeah, still pretty peninsula. That's okay. Maybe we'll shave it all off. We'll probably shave it all off in the next couple days. Most of it. Okay. So, yes. So, Bastion, yes, you can soften up his shield from an angle. That's perfectly fine. You can soften him up from where he can't hit you. But a lot of the time, you're going to need to be your own follow-up after you take down that shield, or at least a portion of the follow-up, especially if you're the only one who swapped to deal with Bastion. Like, if most of your team is going, no, I'm going to stay on this hero, and I'm not going to play it well into Bastion, and I'm not going to play into a poke strategy. Well, now you're sort of on your own, or it's just you and Bap, or just you and Zen or something, or just you and Hanzo, whatever the case may be, depending on your role. And now you've got to go, okay, well, I'm going to have to be my own follow-up, so I'm going to have to do this more with jiggle peeking, or more with super long distances, and less with let me hit this from a, spot that he can't hit back, because by the time I rotate, that shield cooldown will mostly be back. Okay. Shields are large, can usually be damaged by avoiding Bastion's line of fire. Breaking shields while not being shot by Bastion is very important. Minimally important. You will lose and maybe even get eliminated if you try to break shields while getting shot by Bastion. Well, you can play from outside of his range, or you can jiggle peek. Like, he has to aim, and if multiple people are pressuring that shield, if you pressure him from over on the... Oh, that's not what we wanted. From over on the right, and your buddy pressures him from over on the left, and you both have walls that you can play with. Walls are pretty cool, and then you've got a Bastion deep over there. If Bastion looks this way, this guy person on the left closes the angle, and the person on the right opens and shoots. And then the person on the left reopens the angle, basically immediately, because Bastion can't just sit there and shoot at nothing, turns to shoot the other way, and the other person gets to peek. Not too complicated. Plus, shields don't last very long, you break it pretty quick, and as soon as the shield's gone, especially if you have any distance, you can just shell him. Okay. Bastion unites a team to defend him, but Bastion will also unite the enemy team to focus fire him. Sometimes he unites a team to defend him. The better ones don't. The better ones say, please leave me alone, as they go play cute off angles and surprise opponents and play into their psychology. But that's okay. There's very little coordination on ladder. People shoot at whoever they like, unless there's a Bastion, then everyone shoots a Bastion. Yeah, I'd say that's mostly true. If you set up with a Bastion bunker in an obvious spot, yes, everyone is mostly going to shoot at the Bastion. Sure. How to abuse Bastion's weaknesses. 1. Break shields without exposure to Bastion's line of fire. This is by far not the most important thing we've talked about. I would definitely not put this as the top. Like, yeah, you can do this if you want to play Junkrat or something and go, hey, I'm going to break Bastion's shield while he can't shoot at me, and once his shield is broken, my nades are going to start falling in his general area, and he's not going to be happy. Sure, but Junkrat doesn't have the option to do that everywhere on every map, and that's one hero. Sigma is going to have even less opportunities to bounce things onto Bastion. Scatter Arrow isn't in the game anymore, as long as we don't get bouncing Storm Arrows anyways. So this is by far the least important of the things that we'd covered so far. So it can be here, but I'm disappointed to see this as number one. Pretty straightforward. Okay. 2, spam the Bastion bunker while jiggle peeking from multiple angles. Okay. This is better. This is a much better way to take it down, but it does require not necessarily some level of coordination. You can see what your team is doing and just actively yourself go take a different angle, but it does require that other teammates are at least trying to poke the Bastion and that they're not constantly getting staggered. Even if they're constantly getting staggered, you can still win. You can still do it because their Bastion bunkers generally happen closer to attacker spawns rather than defender spawns because you don't generally swap into a Bastion bunker. You start on a Bastion bunker and generally you swap out of it because it actually struggles more once more ults come online. So you can win a stagger fest even if your team is staggering. But it's easier certainly if they're not staggering, if they're not just constantly wide peeking and getting eliminated by the Bastion. But even if your team is primarily firing from one angle, you can go take a second angle, and now voila, you've mostly made the strategy work. And this would be the prime strategy and my favorite strategy because it is the most flexible. It requires a little bit of team coordination, but like you can mostly make that team coordination happen all by yourself as long as your team isn't like literally one by one staggering, Winston jumping on Bastion while your entire team is on spawn, or a case of what was I saying? Or a case of no one on your team is doing any poke, which is legit. You can take Bastion down without any poke. I hope we're going to talk about dives or brawl rushes that try to take Bastion down too, because so far this only looks like poke solutions. Okay, so this should have been the number one in my opinion, at least based on what we've seen in this guide so far. 3, push when Bastion repositions. Okay. This seems unsupported with the points that led us here, but sure. Push when Bastion repositions. When enemy shields break and Sentry Bastion starts taking heavy poke damage, Bastion will usually reposition. Generally speaking, that's the cue for tanks to press W. So on better teams, that's not necessarily what will happen. The Orisa shield might break, but then the Bastion is going to, or excuse me, the Orisa is going to fortify and still provide enough protection as best she can. Or the Sigma is going to use hands. Something along those lines. So as they get better, that gets less successful, but yes, that is still pretty common to see, and ultimately as they get better, you're going to see less Bastion bunkers, so we're sort of in a conundrum there. But that's okay. Yes, if you see it, you do expect that once you break the shield, you basically want everyone to open the angle. Bastion is very likely to be rotating, or at least to be panicking, and you do want to shoot him then, not take cover and give them 2-3 seconds to get that fresh Orisa shield back and pop a new one down. Okay. Generally speaking, that's the cue for tanks to press W. If you're playing poke, I suppose. I mean, if by W you mean that's the situation for my Orisa to press halt because their shield's gone and I want to lock the Bastion who's trying to rotate away in while my team blows him up. I mean, sometimes halt is a better button than W, but okay. Typical problem against Bastion is that the tanks push when Bastion is behind a healthy shield in sentry mode. I mean, would you prefer they just AFK? And no, that's not the typical issue. The typical issue, and I can see this now. Oh, additional notes. We're going to cover them. Okay. The typical issue is you're on different pages. Your tanks might be thinking, hey, we have a short sight line against Bastion. There's cover between us and him, but if we rotate in such a way, we can get close to him. Or maybe we're in a situation where, oh, I don't know. Let's say that we have a Bastion right here, sort of at the back, and then we have a tanks that are able to use cover. Maybe we're talking security closet, and tanks are able, maybe we're talking Hollywood. In fact, let's pull up Hollywood. I think that's going to be useful for this. For those that are just listening, I'm sorry guys, but there's not much I can do. Talking about Bastion is going to require some level of visualization. I'm trying to describe what I'm showing you so that those who are just listening can hear as well. But we're pulling up Stat Banana, or at least I think we're pulling up Stat Banana. Seemed like we should have been pulling up Stat Banana. Huh. That's not quite what we wanted. So let's pull back up our Stat Banana, which I know we had here. Stat Banana, there we go. Okay. And we're going to pull up Hollywood. I think Hollywood's a reasonable example for this. And apologies for not having this preset. But we pull up Hollywood, and what we're talking about here is they want to talk about, hey, your tank's pressing W when the shield is still up is usually the problem. And I don't really agree. Because if I look at this right here, and I have a Bastion bunker predictably set up at the top of the cafe, and I'm not going to use full hero groups, but let's put an enemy Bastion up here. Let's put them with an Orisa. Great. This is a little bit of a shorter sight line. It might be a little hard to make a Hanzo plus pharmacy solution work just from distance. It's not actually that hard because you've got lots of cover you can jiggle peek from in terms of you can put your Pharah peeking the roof here repeatedly, which is nice. Your Hanzo peeking main, and that actually works pretty well. They've got good different cover angles to jiggle peek, but that's fine. What you can also have though is your Reinhardt doesn't just want to sit here and not press W until your team breaks the shield. Your Reinhardt might go, I want a more active Reinhardt solution, which is, hey, I'm going to rotate, especially if I have, say, shorter range DPS, like let's give him a Reaper. I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to try to make quick rotations through small sightlines shortly through the opponent's sightline to get to new pieces of cover until I can keep rotating and then go behind the point. So we went through security, through staging here. We went behind on second, and then we're able to come up, and this Bastion either has to rotate away or we're now close enough to him that we can just run at him and take him down. And this is how a more brawly team takes him down. So frequently what happens is, hey, you have, unfortunately, a Reinhardt plus a Pharah, for example, and the Pharah is interested in a poke solution, and the Reinhardt is maybe interested in a rotation solution. And that's not going to be so great. You do have to figure out what makes most sense for your team, and I am going to be honest, most of the time in this situation, you're going to want to defer to the greater element of your team. So if your team has heavy on poke elements, let's say you've got Zen, Pharmacy, and Hanzo, yeah, even if you're Reinhardt, you're not going to go let me rotate and then run at them from behind solution. You're going to let your team poke them out and sort of do what this guide is saying. But if you've got Reaper, Maze, Zenyatta, Orisa, and Reinhardt, you're probably going to go with that let's rotate behind them and try to run them over type strategy because you want to create that short sight line to take them out. And that's what more of your team can play into, and that's ultimately what you're going to have to do. If you're totally balanced, you're probably going to lean poke because it's easier to coordinate and easier to do on ladder. It requires less coordination. As we talked about, as a single poke player, you can do a lot to work with your team if they're poking at all by just you yourself alone taking a second angle. Whereas if you're, rotating, that sort of solution, it's going to take more of, okay, everyone has to be staged properly, or everyone has to rotate at the right time with your Reinhardt, whatever the case may be there. Okay, so let's go back here, because we've got additional notes, and I'm hoping that in their additional notes, even though they heavily leaned into poke solutions here, that they at least cover brawlier or divier solutions. But again, I would not say that the shield breaking is necessarily the Q to press W. It certainly can be. You can certainly use other things like halt, but it would be honestly, when that shield breaks, things should get eliminated. And sure, when things get eliminated, you're going to press W anyways, but you may have pressed W before then for rotation reasons. Okay. There you go. 3 simple steps to defeat a Bastion bunker. Let's see our additional notes. Additional notes. Dive and rush against Bastion bunker. Good. Is it possible to play dive and rush against a Bastion bunker? It is possible to play dive and rush against a Bastion bunker, but if you're reading this guide, then chances are your team isn't coordinated enough to play dive and rush against Bastion. I mean, I just need one other person to do decently. Again, I talked about how the poke solution is probably the simplest, but if I'm in a situation where I'm playing Tracer, I can pretty easily stage while my team feeds behind point, as long as I want. That's perfectly fine. I can stage behind point for as long as I want, and then I just have to wait for a Winston, a D.Va, a Winston, a D.Va, a Ball, any of them to go, aha, I'm going to pull the trigger and hit go now. I'm going to pull the trigger and hit go now, and this is when I'm going to go in and try to do this. And congratulations, we had 2-person coordinate, and guess what? Our D.Va going in, our Winston going in, our Ball going in, whatever we had, probably got the rest of our team to coordinate and at least do their contribution too. That might be a Zen opening an angle. That might be a Reaper deciding that, oh, I'm supposed to pretend that I'm a dive hero and shadow step. whatever the case may be there. That might be a BAP throwing in a lamp to help you out because, hey, who doesn't want a lamp to help out their dive? Like, that could be any number of cool things there that are happening. And again, most of the team is going to fall when the tank does something, at least most of them who are alive. And if you can go, hey, you just need to be one other diver to coordinate with them. Now, yes, that does kind of require you to be someone divey, and to be someone divey, you're probably going to have to be in the tank or the support role for that to work. And if you're the tank, because I did this from the tank's perspective, you are going to have to, I did this from the DPS's perspective, you are going to have to, if you are the tank, instead figure out if your DPS knows what they're doing in terms of staging. If your DPS is just never staging as a diver, you're pretty much going to have to go, okay, this isn't really going to work. I'm going to have to come up with a different solution that maybe swap whatever, or it may be talking to them on comms, telling them to stage whatever. But like if they try to dive with you in the same direction, that's probably not going to work. So you could also go, okay, well, I'll just go play an off angle, whatever the case is, and try like that. But you have to recognize, you have to really believe that your DPS is going to go in. And sometimes the best way to do that is to see that they're actively staging so you can see what they're doing. Sometimes the best way to do that is to talk to them on comms. And sometimes the best way to do that is to literally watch them until they get bored and start to make a move. And as soon as they start to make a move, start to finish, go from a staging position to a real rotation for the dive, then go yourself. So you sort of go second, the same way a Winston might go second in that he's jumping on a pharmacy on someone that's been hit by his pharmacy's rocket, as opposed to him jumping on someone and trusting that they're going to hit. You know, he goes, the diva could see your tracer starting to actually leave the semi-permanent staging position or the semi-safe staging position, not really semi-permanent, to go on something that they really can't hold, that they really have to continue moving through, and you go, okay, they're going in, I'm going, that sort of thing. But I agree, it's easier from the DPS perspective. Okay. Rush, you do what we said. It's going to require more of that stacking to go in, stack, rotate on the really short sight lines. Ultimately, Brawl or Rush and Dive are playing for the same win condition. They're playing to get on top of the opponent. They're playing to not take a ton of damage on the way in. Brawl comps just have a little bit easier time. They can take a little bit more abuse as they rotate to stage, and so they're going to do a little bit more of the Bastion comp is likely to try to kite them for longer. As we see our Rhine comp rotates to something like behind the point, the Bastion comp is probably, or, to on second, the Bastion comp is probably going to retreat from top of cafe down to something like behind point by garden, something like that. And you'll see more rotating away generally from a Brawl comp because Brawl has a little bit better tools, not great, but a little bit better tools to not take damage as they rotate their core to sort of shoo it away, whereas the Dive comp is going to not recover from having taken damage particularly well, not have good resources to rotate through stuff, but they do have the speed to effectively cheat rotations, get across with blinks, jumps, boosters, that sort of thing, and then hit their surround and then go. And obviously, yes, Dive is going to be the best at taking down Bastion comps. It requires a little bit more coordination, but if you had to pick, you would probably go with Dive as your solution. And as answers to that, you'll see a lot of bunkers include things like Torbs, things that are specific, like Brig, things that are specifically meant to help answer the dive. And because that happens, Poke starts becoming an interesting solution, especially if you can get those long sight lines, or you can have multiple angles to jiggle peek from. Brawl is going to be your worst solution, but that's because it's rotation onto them. Just sort of, it takes the longest to set up if they do any level of rotating away from you. You will eventually win because even if they keep rotating away from you, well, eventually they're not guarding the point anymore, and now they have to push back into you or just give up the point, and you're fine with either of those. So that's really how that works. I think it's a little bit of a cop-out to say that it's too complicated, but let's see if we get more here. Dive and Brawl require more teamwork and coordination, which isn't guaranteed with rando teammates in lower ranks. Slightly. I would say that they require slightly more coordination. Dive requires slightly more. Brawl requires moderately more. Flanking against Bastion Bunker, some guides recommend playing a flanker here like Tracer and Reaper. A flanker can work, but keep in mind Bastion and the rest of his team could turn around to shoot you, as they always could against Dive ever when you're playing Dive into anything. What's your point? It still distracts them. Like, oh, yes, they turned around to shoot at Tracer. So Tracer blinked back behind cover, and now the opponent is super pressured, going, there's a Tracer back there, but if I stop shooting forward, the opponent will overwhelm us with their Zen plus Orisa. We need our Bastion looking at the Orisa to overpower their Zen plus Orisa. Like, that's how it works. That's why angles overwhelm human beings. We do not handle multiple directions terribly well. Okay, flanking against Bastion Gunker, right. Also, an enemy tank can stand directly behind Bastion to cover his weak spot. Right, but if you're standing a Reinhardt behind your if you're standing a Reinhardt behind your Bastion, that still doesn't help you when Tracer comes in to pulse bomb you, and also, you're hard losing that poke battle. Reinhardt is not contributing to the poke battle forward, and you might be going, poke battle? Reinhardt doesn't have much poke, all he has is Fire Strike. But part of what Reinhardt contributes to that poke battle is his shield, and if he's having to shield behind him, his shield is not recharging, and he's not then ready to flip with Orisa and let Orisa recharge when that's happening. So that's not amazing either. You've also got weak poke generally if you're running Ryan plus Orisa. Sigma is better. And you can say, oh, well, you're using Sigma, but again, Sigma shield isn't recharging if you're using it like that. And if you go, oh, no, you don't need to constantly use the Sigma shield, you can just put it up when the Tracer comes in. Well, Tracer can just be annoying behind you, and if you don't pay any attention to her, you don't pay any attention to the Sombra, to the Reaper, to the Genji, whatever, then they can charge up ults, or they can just soften you up enough that when that barrier goes down forward for even an instant, people are threatened with lethal damage from other places, or if you just totally ignore them, they'll literally blink in and finish you. Like, oh, you're half health because you've just been ignoring me? Okay, I'll blink in and finish you. You're just ignoring me? Eventually I force Lamp, and then you don't have Lamp for the actual brawl. These things absolutely help. Okay. Basically, a flanker can work if you're much better than the enemy team. No. No. You do not need to be much better than the enemy team. You have to be competent at playing a flanker. You have to understand how flankers work, but you don't have to be like 50% better than the enemy team for flankers to work. Bonus discussion. Bastion Bunker versus Double Shields. It's worth considering why Double Shields without Bastion is viable in high ranks, but not Double Shields with Bastion. What makes Double Shields strong without Bastion? What makes Double Shields weak with Bastion? Knowing the answer will help you defeat Bastion. Let me read that again. It's worth discussing why Double Shield without Bastion is viable in high ranks, but not Double Shield with Bastion. Okay? I mean, the answer to this is mostly angles. Double shields, when played correctly, is played with angles, where you play, hey, I've got a bunker in one spot, I've got a bunker in another spot, they threaten, my forward Sigma bunker threatens, pushes enemies back, allows my Orisa bunker to move forward, take new space, now my Sigma bunker can move forward on the wing again. Like, that's the good part of the comp, that's really what we want to get into, and I'll catch up on chat in just a second, guys. I know I've left you hanging there. So, that's fine. Even without that, they do okay with rotations. Like, even if your tanks stack, which isn't great, there's a couple things that still make it better than running it with the Bastion, which is you are better in the brawl with double shield if they come on you. Even if you were stacked, you're better in the brawl than you would be with a Bastion most of the time. Orisa has Fortify. That is nifty, and you're going to have heroes that are just better than Bastion once they're on top of them most of the time. Even if you have a Casti, which is a poke brawl hybrid, well, it's a brawl hybrid. You've got a little brawl power. Or your DPS are going to take angles and be more mobile than your Bastion. Even if your tanks foolishly double stack like that, you're still going to find that some of your DPS who want to get stuff done are going to have taken angles, and that's going to be more effective, and your Bastion probably has it. Now, Bastion can take angles, but Bastion generally, when he's played, even in higher level GM games, generally, if it's done well, isn't going to be with a bunker. It can happen, but it's generally not going to be with a bunker like that, or he's not going to be with the bunker itself, because he does not want to be that steady. He wants the off angles. He wants to surprise opponents. Okay. Okay. We'll do a quick refresh to see what they have to say, but let me do a quick catch up on chat. Is it pick Anna? Solves every Bastion problem. Anna solves a lot of Bastion problem. If you're looking for individual hero solutions to the Bastion problem, let's actually pull up our Overwatch Heroes guide because we're talking about it. Our Overwatch Heroes. and we will real quickly point out some of the, if it's just you and there's no team coordination whatsoever, what some of your best solutions are. So if we go into the support category, since that's where we started, Anna is of course great. Anna is great. We'll go absolutely thumbs up on that because Anna is going to give you, hey, you've got sleep darts, you've got nades. That's pretty solid. Anna's good. Zen is also fantastic. You can discord him, you can throw right clicks at him, you can put out significant consistent pressure with left clicks. You have infinite range because they're projectiles. That's a good hero for handling Bastion. Other good heroes for handling Bastion are going to be Baptiste. Again, you put out pretty good poke, and you have potentially your own lamp. You can drop a lamp and allow your own team to shoot with the lamp being unbreakable, and they can just straight out destroy it. And hey, that works pretty well. A little less good, but still viable, would be Lucio. Let me actually we'll do half size arrows, Lucio, and Mercy. Those are fine. Mercy's going to boost the amount of poke damage that someone does. I'm good with it. No problem with that. If someone does make a mistake, you can res them, and you can generally do it from safety because even if they wide peaked, they shouldn't have wide peaked so far that Mercy can't res them. And then Lucio, similar thing. Moira would be the next best, I suppose. Like Moira and Brig are both more. The supports are like these three are the best that I highlighted. I don't have huge issues with the other though. The others are just going to get very specific into their solutions. Even Lucio is pretty specific into his solution, but like Moira is going to require that her team has decided we're playing a brawl situation. We're playing something where we were able to rotate onto them, and she's able to just throw out her healing while the team takes out the Bastion, and then hey, it's okay that the Bastion made them weak while they quickly took him out because she can handle that amount of cleave healing, and you've all come together nicely to take out the Bastion bunker. It's a very tight fight. And Brig is again going to be very specific for dive solutions where hey, it helps your team sustain a little bit. She's probably the worst of the heroes, first Bastion in our support lineup here. I'd probably consider her the worst, but really these three are the ones that you would look to most of the time. On ladder, these are going to be the most successful for you. If we move over to our tank solutions, nothing too wild here. Obviously, Diva is an amazing tank solution. Whether you're trying to ultimately, there's going to be some point at which you want the tank to press W, as they put it. She's amazing at enabling brawl solutions. She helps the rotation. She also stops the Bastion from contributing when you actually go in for the full-on rush on them. She does the same thing during the full-on dive. She doesn't have terribly good poke, absolutely, but she can DM people similar to a Bastion lamp to make them invincible, to go, oh, I see someone messed up, let me go ahead and try to cover that. She is your best choice when it comes to a tank to deal with Bastion. Other solid choices are really going to get into the territory of, hey, you can use Roadhog if you're really by yourself, like it's really just you and you're just trying to carry yourself back to the win there. That's an option. It's not amazing. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Similar things in the pretty good category would be Orisa. Hey, you're playing into a poke solution. Yes, Bastion is absolutely going to shred your shield, but you're putting some of that pressure on it, back on him. You have projectiles, so you can play that infinite range game to try to soften him up. And then I'd say similar things here would be for, hey, if you want to distract this team, if you want to mess up this team, if you want a dive solution and you're not playing Bastion, because Diva, excuse me, because everyone can't pick Diva, both tanks can't pick Diva, you would run into Wrecking Ball as another somewhat reasonable option here. Don't pick Winston. I know it's the nice cleave, it'll do good damage, don't pick Winston. You're still going to want Wrecking Ball, you'll get the giant adaptive shield, you'll have more ability to go, hey, let me knock someone away, take them out, and then we just sort of win type solution. DPS, your options are a dime a dozen. I mean, if we go into DPS, she's not amazing anymore, okay, good, not really any better than Ash. Good, okay, good, okay. okay, that might seem weird to you, but you get to use your teleports to help you rotate brawler teams onto her pretty well. Yeah, those are all pretty solid. I could list more dive heroes in here. I could list heroes playing into their dive in here a little bit better as well. But yeah, you've got lots of good options in the DPS category. DPS are not at all starving, and like one DPS player who picks a good hero for dealing Bastion, combined with literally anyone else picking a good hero and a good hero from the other categories, or just two good DPS heroes, should be enough that Bastion stops giving you trouble. You downvoted my comment? Okay, Adam. Okay. Well, what you're really doing when you downvote my comment is you're making it so that when we sort by controversial, I'm on top. That's what. Not even. Adam, I'm disappointed. Can't even get me to the top of controversial? Disappointing. Disappointing. Okay. Westburst says, I still think it's funny that Doom and Ryan Pin caused a standstill while Doom Punch doesn't bust Bastion out of his form. Yeah, yeah, I know. They can't decide exactly how they want to deal with those. Sometimes they call it balance. They don't want Ryan to be any more helpless against Bastion. It's a little weird that Doomfist can't do a little bit more to best up Bastion. On the other hand, constantly moving Bastion around would sort of, how do I put this? It would be really easy if Bastion could just be moved around by I Doomfist slam and the Bastion moves, then I punch him, then I uppercut him. Like, it would be really easy, and Bastion's already hurting as a hero. So it for balance reasons, it makes sense that he can't. Just wait for Karma to hit you back at him. uh, Knowing what to do does nothing when two of your teammates don't and die in 1 second each. I don't really think that's true. So I don't really consider that true because if we go back to our map example here, again, even if two of your teammates are just like trickling and getting themselves eliminated, most Bastion bunkers are going to be set up on first points, on Hollywood first, on Hanamura first, on Route 66 first, on all these places where they're on first point. It's going to be very rare that you're dealing with a Bastion on Route 66 third point, for example. And with that in mind, you get to go, okay, even if you guys are trickling a bit, your trickle timers aren't that bad because it's not that far of a run from spawn for you. And if I try to play even off of 4-person engages as a tracer into 4v6s, even if I can just take the Bastion down or just take the Mercy down or just take, one person down, that's really generally going to be enough for us to then come back and then get another better one after that. Like, Bastion bunkers start really falling apart. They value being, the heroes that help each other quite a bit more than you guys value being those heroes that help each other. And again, you can be that Tracer working with the Diva. You can be that Reaper working with the Reinhardt. You can be the Reaper working with the Hammond. You can be the Zen or the BAP that understands how to work with the Tracer, or the Zen that goes, hey, my entire team is poking from main. Forget that. Let me rotate up over here, and now I've got a little bit of a different angle that I'm playing from. Is this a great place for Zen to play? No, but if your whole team is playing from here on one angle, you'll go do it because having that second angle helps so much, and even just one person taking a second angle, as long as there's any amount of poke happening from that first angle, is huge for taking these things down. That's why communication is key. It can help. It can help. The thing is, communication is only really necessary if you don't all have a shared view of what the best plan is, or you don't have a view of what they're going to do. Because if you view and understand what they're going to do, you can plan around what they're going to do. So, like, you guys know I am not the strongest believer in yes, be in voice comms on ladder. In organized play, absolutely. But Bastion is more of a ladder issue for low rank ladder play, and even without being in comms, you can handle him if you understand these basics of how the 3 comps handle him. Brawl will have the hardest time without communication because, people might not recognize when the rotations are happening and it might take too long and people might rush it when they've rotated away and you go, no, we're good. We can just cap point at this point, that sort of thing. Or, hey, no, wait, we can't continue to chase. I need to recover Ryan Shield, that sort of thing. Like, Brawl will be the hardest, but they're all doable. Poke is the easiest, but not like significantly easier than dive. And again, like 2 or 3 people getting it right is enough. It really is. And you didn't miss temporals After Xmas stream, yeah, Merry Christmas, blah. Merry Christmas, everyone. Where he announces Patreon. Maybe for the new year there. Maybe for the new year. Okay. We'll do a quick read through here, and then I have to head out. But we'll do a quick read through of comments. If you guys have final things to throw up in chat there, let me know. Let's see. Oh, there were some comments on this. Anything interesting? We're sorted by best. I feel like breaking shields without being in enemy sightlines is a big deal that warrants its own post. It's really not. It's really the least important thing. If I were to rate this post, I would give this post like a solid 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10 type territory. It's trying to be helpful. A lot of its information isn't wrong, but it's prioritized the wrong thing. It wrote off dive solutions and brawl solutions too heavily. Like if I was looking at this here, they give us 3 points. I'm going to reorder these points. I'm going to go, this should be 1. This should be 3. This should be like 6 or 7. And we should have dive and brawl solutions in here, and we should have them more fleshed out in our like 2 spot. Like, okay, so we've talked about jiggle peeking from multiple angles. This is good, but we need to be talking about, okay, how do we use flankers, that sort of thing, before we need to really talk about this push when Bastion repositions, and this, break their shield when they can't expose the line of fire, less important. And I'd also talk about heroes that individually, since we're so focused on your team isn't coordinated enough to play, blah, blah, blah. We should probably list some heroes that are generally good at handling Bastion, especially in uncoordinated environments, as well as emphasizing, like I did, what's going to be important in terms of, okay, if your team is uncoordinated, what is the bare minimum that you need to do to work around them to still find success? That's what I would want to emphasize in this guide. But they meant well. They're not trying to do damage. They're trying to write a helpful guide for people, and most of the information isn't wrong. This is just way, way overblown. Okay. I feel like breaking shields without being an enemy sightline is a big deal that warrants its own post. Definitely doesn't. Despite being 2400, I only recently explicitly realized I could shoot a shield without being able to see the Rhine holding it. And now I look for opportunities to do so. You should take those opportunities when they're there, but not at the cost of like if you have the option of having an angle open that lets you shoot at someone that isn't behind a Rhine shield, or closing the angle so all you can see is the Rhine shield, please shoot at the person who isn't behind the Rhine shield. Do not over prioritize shield break. Shield break is generally better than reloading, but shield break is rarely actually the way that you win this game. Yeah. You can even shoot barriers from the other side of a wall sometimes. This is usually the most relevant with Winston barriers, but the shield goes right through and is damageable from the other side. True. Some hero-specific things. I'd have liked to see some of these. BAP, a well-timed lamp, absolutely demolishes a bunker if you land the lamp directly above the Bastion. That's one way to use it. You can also use it at your own place to choke whatever that you're poking from to go, hey, we're shooting you, you think you're going to take us down, but we lamp and we just full on, like you put down a fresh Orisa shield, right as you put down that fresh Orisa shield, we throw down our lamp. So you go, oh shoot, I thought I was going to get to hard fight you guys for a second, and we have our lamp, so we just get to shoot you. Our lamp is tucked behind the choke, so you can't actually see it, and we also throw out a halt, or our ball rolls through you from behind, so you can't just, run as we do that. And hey, that's going to work pretty well. Sombra, don't use hidden hack, instead positions close by in position in invis and empty your clip into his crit spot. You don't often eliminate him, get him very low before you'll often eliminate him or get him very low before he's realized he's taking damage. Only if their bunker sucks. Only if their bunker sucks. Because he should not, does he not have a Harmony Orb? Does he not have a Mercy Beam? Does his BAP not start mixing right clicks in on him? It's a thing that you can do, but I actually wouldn't want to get that aggressive with your Sombra. I'd want to play your Sombra on an angle behind them, and I generally want to hold that angle for longer unless I have more people going in. If my team is going with a poke solution and I'm Sombra, I want to hold that angle longer but shallower so that I can stay in longer and be more of a nuisance, and it's harder for them to extract me. If you go in this hard to try to take out the Bastion, your team needs to have gone in hard with you. Did you do this as a Winston was jumping in? Did you do this this as a ball was trying to roll through the edge? Did you do this as a Reaper was shadow stepping? Did you do this as their shield just broke and Orisa threw out her halt? Like, all these things, if you do that, you're now going to be out of the fight for a long time if you don't get it to work. So I don't really recommend it. That's like trying to solo hero play it, and it just does not work as you scale up because there's too many people that can swap their attention too quickly to pretty cheaply protect the Bastion and then force you out for a pretty meaningful amount of time. Ball, two things with ball. First, don't knock up the bunker. Boop them away from Bastion. Generally good advice. If they have an immobile tank on high ground and you knock only them off, you've basically dismantled the bunker, sure. Secondly, because of Bastion's hitbox, ball ult should often one-shot him. Yeah, ball ult is pretty good for him. It's not going to always take him out, but it is pretty good for completely ruining their bunker. Minefield will not usually one-shot Bastion in my experience. He usually just tanks one mine, heals, and doesn't move. Don't think he'll even trip more than one mine if he stays stationary. There's ways to manipulate your minefield to make it tighter. They've done some patching to try to make that harder, but there are some things that you can do in terms of controlling how your mines deploy. Obviously, there's the standard, the higher up you are, the more they'll spread out, but people use tricks like using walls, using shoots. Like if we talk about Ilios Lighthouse, you can see like, oh, up there you can make your bomb super tight, etc. Now that doesn't help unless you also knock someone up there, but there's things that you can do or how you can use walls to deploy them to get a little trickier with it. Okay. What do you think about Echo versus Bastion? If Bunker has an Orisa, especially at lower ranks, it can take time for your team to burst her shield, and half the time it just gets placed right back down. You're slowly gaining time on it. I know it might seem like it, like, oh, the shield broke and there was immediately another shield, but you are actually gaining time. Like her first, because she can put her shield down, and before you even get to her shield, she has her cooldown for the next shield back, and then you break the shield, and the next shield immediately goes down. But you've actually gained time on her, because this time when the shield goes down, if you immediately get right back on breaking this second shield, she's not going to have her third one. Her third one might come up pretty quickly. She might have it like 3 seconds after, but you're gaining time. If you can't get it after breaking 3 shields in a row, yeah, you're not doing damage fast enough, but you are actually gaining time. Don't feel like, oh, I broke a shield and another shield immediately went up once is a big problem. She doesn't have fall off damage. She's projectile. She's fine. She's okay at taking out bastions. I would prefer to use Pharah if we're talking about taking out bastion bunkers. Echo's fine though because she hybridizes well. If you can't tell what your team is doing, how they're going to try to solve the bastion, Echo can make a decent choice because if your team ends up poking a lot, you can play into that. If your team goes in harder with something like, oh no, I thought we were going to poke, but it turns out that our Reinhardt just tried to run it down or Winston jumped in or something like that, well, you can dive in or over shields, throw in the stickies. Stickies won't take them out immediately, but they're effective when combined with other tools. Echo is arguably the hardest Bastion counter in the roster because of mobility and burst damage. Yeah, I mean, I can see that argument. She's good. Like, she's good because dive is a better solution. As you scale up more, she becomes an even better solution, but you also see less Bastions. She's good because she can do dive solutions and she also has stickies and she's got okay poke. She's less good at the specific poke solution that this guide is highlighting than Pharah is, but yes, her flexibility does make her better. She's also just a better hero in most ways than Pharah and Genji. Sorry. They're different, but she's mostly just a better hero. Anything else here? Not enough upvotes, guys. It hurts. It hurts. We want visibility when we review these things, but that's okay. Hit a quick refresh there. Yeah. You guys are letting me down. Letting me down. But maybe we're just all busy fighting the downvotes from all of Adam's ult accounts. Maybe that's what's going on. Okay, I think that's going to do it. Let me do one final catch up on chat, and then we'll wrap this guy up. Okay. Love playing Bastion, but the amount of I've seen has been ridiculous recently. Well, there's a free weekend that happened, right? A free weekend or maybe a free through the New Year's thing that happened. Something like that's going on right now. So you're going to have the ladder's going to be weird right now. That's gonna happen. Either people going, "Hey, let me meme it up on a free alt account," or "Hey, new players playing, and new players are gonna play some stuff that's weird. They're gonna play in different ways." They always make the ladder a bit of a mess because the ladder likes to try to drop people around gold, and the average new player, unless they're coming with serious experience from other games, is not a gold level player by the current ladder standards. Val says in 800 SR, we walk single file while spamming attack the objective. There you go. There you go. Oh, wait, I completely forgot you right. There, yep. Unless this time is different, free accounts can't do comp. I mean, I hear you, and I think that's true, but you've also got just the, that makes a weird place. Like it permeates in making the quick play that people warmed up in weird, makes the game weird. People hear that there's free accounts, so they start playing weird. People are on the holidays in general where, hey, people who haven't been playing much are suddenly able to dedicate a lot of time, and they haven't been dedicating a lot of time in the past, so they play differently than you're used to. It's always gonna get weird, both at the holidays as well as when free weekends happen. Like, you say that, blah, but we almost always see the quality of comp games go down. So, it could just be a placebo effect, but that placebo effect could be causing people to play differently, which makes it real. Overwatch is always, I mean, it's not always on sale, but yeah, Overwatch is frequently on sale. Overwatch is frequently on sale. Is it on a particularly good sale right now? Okay. Okay, that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please do drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're just about a dozen subscribers from 2,000, and it would be fantastic if we could make it there by the end of the year. That would be really cool if we could get those last few subscribers and make it there. If you guys want to see when I'm live for content because you want to pick my brain, you have questions for me for a former contenders coach, or you want to see what other topics I cover, we review people's guides, we review professional matches, we do reviews of individual players at all sorts of ranks, we do team coaching stuff, we cover the collegiate scene, we cover things like supply shortages, we cover things like Bitcoin sometimes. We're all over the place, video game news, you name it. So feel free, see if those are something you're interested in. You can join my Discord in the description below, and in there you can become a watcher, and then you'll get pings when I go live, and you can see what topic I'm covering, and if it's of interest to you. If it's not, no harm, no foul. If it is, great. Hop by, be in the chat, and share your thoughts. But that's going to do it for now. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.